Hi, I'm Genna.
And I'm Noreen.
And welcome back to This Way Up,
where we talk all things city life, self-love,
and all the bits in between.
And we're excited to bring you this new episode. And it's a little different than what we've talked about so far, but I'm really excited.
I'm super excited. I think it's something we have to talk about. And it is dating as a young Desi person in Toronto. And I feel like there's so many layers to that just in itself. But we have to talk about especially the dating as a Desi person aspect of it, just because no one talks about it. I feel like in the community, everyone is very hush-hush about this thing known as dating, except we pump out a billion Bollywood movies all the time.
Yeah. And on top of it, I think like our culture, society, we place such a huge importance on marriage and, you know, building a family and all of those things. But it's like, what about the before? What about everything that comes into play before that? And it's like all of a sudden you're expected to, you know, be done with all of the other aspects of your life, school, job, whatever. And then out of nowhere, they're like, okay, when are you getting married?
It's like,
and you're just like, what? I'm a baby.
Yeah. It's not like I'm traumatized and terrorized about even mentioning a boy around you. Nothing like that.
No, literally. Yeah.
No, I think that's true. I think it's very like almost ladder-like in the community in that it's like you have to get these certain things done. And it starts with school, getting into a good university, and then it's your career and all of that, like living alone, if that's in the picture even, figuring that out. And then immediately it's like, okay, cool, next, like get married, have kids, like this is your timeline. So yeah, it's a weird concept. Like, I don't know. I feel like it starts young. I feel like it starts with, okay, like, as a Desi person, it's always like, okay, like how chill are your parents? Like how where are they on the spectrum of like, no, dating? What? Oh my God, you're gonna get beat versus like, okay, cool, like do whatever you want. Like they're always somewhere on that spectrum. And I feel like meeting other Desi kids when you're young, that's the first thing you kind of want to understand about their family. It's like, how chill are they? Where are they? Right?
Yeah. And I think it's also really interesting because sometimes like parents fall on the spectrum where they're like not strict with like the whole dating thing, but then they're super strict about other stuff or like
alcohol,
vice versa. It's like it's tricky. It's a weird situation to be in and navigate, especially when you're around, like for us at least, we grew up in a city full of other brown Desi people.
Yeah, lots of brown people.
All of them had, like on that spectrum we're talking about, various different levels. And you're just like, okay, well, your parents are okay with you, you know, being out of the house until 10 p.m. But they're like, no boys, or like, no this. And some of us, like, it's like, no, you can't even go out like 2 days in a row.
Yeah. It's like a whole thing. And I feel like specifically with dating, I feel like I think it's one of those things that universally is a bit harder to get your parents to be okay with versus certain other things like parties and, you know, alcohol and all of that.
1,000%.
But then there's like, let's talk about that like switch that happens, right? Like immediately there's a switch and it's like, well, are you going to get married? And I don't think it comes from a place of, unfortunately, a lot of the time, I don't think it comes from a place of like, oh, this is a whole kind of experience that you should experience in your life. I think it comes from this pressure of, this is now the next normal step, what's accepted as normal. Hence, you must now do this.
Yeah.
It's like, it is the only way to like fulfill the next step and progress in life.
Yeah.
Right?
It's treated more so like a checkbox and a milestone rather than it having the importance that it should. Because I always think about it this way, like realistically, when you find a partner or you're dating someone or you're supposed to meet someone, you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with this person.
Of time.
And especially given that like there's a whole taboo about divorce and splitting up, but it's like, how do you even know that this is a person you are compatible to spend the rest of your life with when you haven't even known them for like what, a year, 2 years? Like, I think that's a ridiculously short amount of time to get to know someone, know their habits, their patterns, their values even. And that's a huge thing. Like, how am I to find someone and be okay with spending the rest of my life with them when their values don't even align with my own.
Or I don't even know their values, because that's not enough time to understand someone's values. And I feel like in Desi parents' defense, I think they do everything they possibly think is important to figure out the guy, right?
Yeah.
Or figure out the girl, like understand where they grew up, what is their education, what kind of a family are they from? And it's all these like all these very on paper resume style things they look for.
Yeah.
So to their credit, I think there's a lot of effort put into making sure they're doing the best thing for their kids. But I think they don't, oftentimes there is this like kind of miss and this gap between like the effort that's put in to make sure that someone is looking for the ideal partner for their kid versus actually understanding what the person's like in ways that you can only find out about a person when you exist around them for a certain period of time.
Exactly.
Right?
1,000%. And also, like, when I think about it, like, to be completely fair and honest, if you are supposed to be someone's potential relationship match, like, again, I'm giving this in the context of like the more traditional arranged marriage setting.
Yeah.
So let's say you're the guy, you're the girl, you're visiting like the partner's to be, like future to be partner's family or whatever. Of course, you're going to put on your best suit, your best personality. All of the messy stuff in your life does not exist all of a sudden. So how are you supposed to judge someone and know they're good and they're bad? And the bad is equally important to know as the good. Like, they're not going to show you that because they want to be like, yeah, of course I want to, you know, get married to so-and-so, or I want to be a part of their family. So I'm not going to let them know about, you know, shitty things that have happened to me or my bad qualities. They're going to put their best suit on. They're going to put their best personality on. They're going to be like, yes, I have a degree in engineering, in medical school, law, or whatever. They're not going to be like, yeah, I failed like 2 years of my education, or
I was in a relationship in med school, but I just treated this person horribly.
Exactly.
Like, we're not going to know. But also, just to be fully rounded, like, I feel like we're going to get like slammed for like, Desi communities like they don't only just do arranged marriages. That's like archaic. It's like not modern. And it's true. Like, for example, my parents have never forced that on me, right? They've never thought that, oh, you have to do this. And the only partner you're going to be with is someone we look for you and we find for you, right? That being said, still, I think there can be a timing thing, what we just spoke about in that, like, dating relationships are not given enough importance for years and years and years and decades until it is given that importance. And even if you have lenient parents in the Desi community and they're accepting of dating, maybe that lack of importance for the longest time may again give you very little time to then leverage their lenience, go out there and date and find yourself a partner. Like it might still feel really rushed because while they give you that independence, there's also this implicit like timeline they have where it's like, well, you're getting kind of old though. So are you going to get married too?
Yeah. And to be completely honest, like I hate this ticking time bomb that you have placed on you where it's like, well, you're nearing your 30s now. You must get married. And it's like, why? What is the need? What is the point? Like, in my head, it's like, okay, well, I want to focus on my career for the next at least 5 years of my life. I want to, you know, get into a senior level role or like a high up their position. And this is just like completely out of the picture and not given so like, oh, the dating part, but more so the marriage part. Cause like, hello, what?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that stems from this idea of like a biological clock and all of that. And I don't know, it's like so convoluted because there's so many takes you can have on this, right? You could easily be like, yeah, but this is like companionship is a very important part of life. Like not for everybody, but for some and for most, it is important. And people really seek that out and want that. And it's like, that's very valid too. Like it is very important. And you want to spend a lot of time like investing in companionship, right? But it's like, I think the problem comes in, like you said, when there is a strict timeline, when people maybe place their idea of what the ideal timeline is or what traditionally has been the most adopted timeline on someone. And they're like, well, this is the way it has to be. And anything outside of this, unorthodox, is not okay. Like you just can't do that. What do you mean? So I feel like, yeah, like there's a lot of different takes. And this is just a really personal thing that shouldn't be so like free for all. I feel like in the Desi community, the subject of marriage and dating unfortunately is a free for all subject, in that everyone vaguely close to your family feels like it's okay to talk about this, to bring it up in a public setting and be like, so when you're getting married, when's your kid getting married? So I feel like there's a lack of boundaries too, in terms of like imposing your idea of this certain timeline on someone else's kid, on someone else that you meet at like a community event or someone's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It feels a little frustrating too, because you're just like, what? Like, this was not a conversation I want to have at this moment,
or with
just
you,
even thought about.
Who is not a direct family member and who I haven't trusted enough to want to have this conversation with in public.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you know, like it's something we face anyway, which sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that, like, that is one side of it, right? It's all the expectations, it's all the standards, it's all like the not so comfy and nice things about dating as a Desi person. But what do you think on the flip side of like, okay, now we're in the era of dating is fine. Forget the parental struggles for a second. We've accepted it. We're out there. We're a young Desi person looking to date. What do you think are more personal struggles and personal hurdles you have to face out there in the world dating, whether it's on apps, whether it's like just meeting people through friends, which is becoming rarer by the day. But like, what do you think are more personal one-on-one struggles?
I 1,000% think one of the biggest struggles is finding someone who like is compatible with you. Like, to me personally, and I know it's the same for you as well, like we're very big on like, I want my partner to have similar values as me. Like, I can't be with someone who, you know, doesn't look at the world in the same manner as I do. And I think that's really tricky because there's so many people out there that don't think that way. Like, when I sit down and I think about like who I am as a person and how I view the world, I consider myself a fairly liberal, progressive person. And it's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the world that don't match the same level of thinking that I do.
100%.
And like, I guess this also comes into play, like both of us, we did a degree where we were surrounded with men. And I found that a lot of them weren't as progressive. They tend to be a little bit more conservative, where they don't really view like men and women as an example on the same spectrum, as giving them respect, or just general like believing that they're both capable individuals regardless of whether they're a man or a woman. But I think that's like one of the biggest struggles, is like finding values that match, because I don't think I could be with someone who's going to tell me that, you know, they don't think a woman should be making more than them, or that they don't think women belong in engineering, as an example. Like, of course, these are like super out there, but there are people that think this way. And there are people I've come across who do think this way and have expressed those feelings. And I'm just like, what?
And sometimes it doesn't take someone saying something so grandiose, like this statement, just like putting it out there. It might also be like the little microaggressions, the little like the little beliefs that come out here and there. That's enough to be like, oh, I feel like maybe on a deeper level our values don't align. And I feel like putting that cultural spin on things, I think a lot of my values, and I'm sure a lot of your values too, have been shaped by the cultural upbringing that we have, right? Especially I feel like in a Desi household, or even like in a East Asian household, like there is a lot of emphasis on, especially as like second generation immigrants or even first generation immigrants, and that you have to hold on to a lot of cultural values, and that shapes you. I think it hugely shapes you. So when you go out there and you start dating and you are like spending considerable amounts of time with a person, like, you know, that could lead to something like marriage, you inevitably like look for someone that also maybe shares those kinds of values, right? And I feel like it's tricky because in a place like Canada, like there's people from all different walks of life, from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. And I feel like there is this mix of like, you know, our values will transcend what our cultural background is. And there are these core kind of beliefs and values as human beings that will align. But I think it's a mix of that and this other side of, oh, like I've had this cultural upbringing, and there are these things that maybe are influenced by my culture, by, you know, those values that were instilled in me, that maybe it's something that I also look for, and can't find an exact match out there,
right?
Unless I'm talking to someone that maybe has experienced similar things to me. Correct. So it's like kind of a weird mix of both. Like I find myself teetering on both sides of that argument, where it's like, I want to be a very open-minded person and connect with, be it in friendship settings, in relationship settings, with people from all over the place. But also oftentimes there's this inevitable, like, oh, if we've been brought up with the same culture in the same place, inevitably we're going to like share opinions on a lot of things. Yeah. Share values, basically.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. It's just a little bit easier to find someone who understands and gets it, because honestly, sometimes I find that it's very exhausting to kind of have to explain yourself, like, oh, well, I can't do these things, or I can't do this, or, you know, I don't even know what this concept looks like. I'm new to this altogether. And like someone who doesn't come from like a South Asian background might be like, what do you mean? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Not saying that that's impossible. There are so many people that make that work, and I feel like I have so many friends in my life that are super interested in understanding like South Asian culture and like what I do for the big holidays and stuff like that. So it's like, it's awesome when you find people like that and you're like, this is great. But yeah, inevitably, again, if you are with someone or friends with someone even that is of the same culture, same ethnicity, some experiences have been shared, and that will give you an easier baseline to start at, where it's like, oh, we already have these things in common. I know what you're talking about. You don't have to translate. I got you. Right. And I feel like a lot of that sometimes also comes from pressure. I feel like, yes, part of it is me wanting people that share that same value and maybe share that same experience in my life so we can relate more, but also it's sometimes parental pressure, right? It's like, we want you to be with someone that's been brought up the exact same way, that comes from the same background. And I don't know where that comes from. Like, I know I know a lot of it is they see parents wanting the best for their kid. And if they've grown up in an environment, they can attest to the fact that maybe it was a good environment to be in. So this is what I want for you. Or it's like societal pressure of like, oh, what are people in our community going to think if you are with someone that's not from the community? It's probably a mix of both.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both, and also the level of, I guess, like not being able to possibly get to know the other person because there's barriers. Sometimes there's language barriers. There's just general, again, like, I don't know how much this person knows about our culture. How much do I have to teach? What is appropriate to teach, etc. Like, there's so many layers to navigating that. But I actually want to touch on something else, because we've been talking about how there's like different pressures, like, you know, one of them being like, you need to find someone who's within the culture, within like, you know, the diaspora. But at the same time, do you as like a Desi person find that sometimes your own values of what you want in a partner tend to get overlooked because everybody else around you is like, well, you need to find a partner who has a good job, has a good degree. And you're just like, hey, what about me? Like, I just want to have like my own values. Maybe I want someone who has the same religious values as me. Maybe I want someone who has the same like political values as me. Maybe I want someone, you know, who equally understands the stuff that I go through as like, you know, a woman and like a male dominated field, and you want someone who's an ally, and like those things are important to us. But do you sometimes feel like the external pressure kind of is like, hey, those things don't matter. All that matters is that they're from the same culture, that, you know, they're making X amount of money, tax bracket money, or they have a degree in, you know, medical, like doctor, they're lawyer, engineer, whatever. Like, I kind of feel like sometimes your own values get pushed out because all of these other people are like, well, we want someone who's going to be able to support you. But it's like, I can support myself. I can make enough money to support myself. I don't need another person to do it for me. But it's like, I just want someone who understands me, respects me, makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel happy. But it's like, none of those things matter because they need to fit XYZ criteria that we put like a report card.
100%. I get it. And I think in the community, like, I feel like you're more like, there are a lot of families out there, 100%, where I think the person themselves, their values are kind of overshadowed by what their parents want for them, families want for them. I feel like I've been fortunate in that in my case, it's just been a bit of a Venn diagram. And it's been a bit of an enlargement of the values we're looking for. Because I think my parents know that if I don't find someone that matches my values, it's not going to be good, right? They're like, she's not going to be happy. It's going to be like a shit show. And like a lot of my family friends too, I look at their parents, I'm like, they have their criteria. I sense that they have their criteria. They look for certain things, but they know it's a losing battle if they disregard their kids' criteria as well. And a lot of the time, their kids' criteria is what you just said. It's like, I want someone that'll align with me on X, Y, and Z, right? And that I can actually spend time with and feel like we are on the same wavelength. That being said, I also know on the flip side, a lot of people where it does get overshadowed. And I think it's tragic because it's like, if you look for certain things on paper, like we talked about before, you're never really going to understand what the person's like, right? Like, certain things can only be felt out if you spend time with the person, you know what they're like. You see what they're like when they're angry, when they're frustrated, when things don't go their way. You're like, oh, okay. Or you see their opinions on the world and you see what they think about when you make decisions like going into a certain field or you end up making more money than them. You see what they're like at those points. And then you're like, oh, now I know what kind of a person you are. Now I understand what your values are and I can assess you and see if we can work as a partnership.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I think on this whole topic, I know we're having this conversation because we think it's important, but as just general, I think we need to like normalize these conversations a lot more, just like within families, within the culture itself, because we always have these conversations after every single pair has legally signed a contract, and it's like, well, now you're married, so now all the struggles that you're going to go through is going to be there on after. There's no way out now. Like, you just have to figure it out, and like you just have to adjust and make compromises. But it's like, hey, this could all literally have been avoided if we just gave enough time and learned about each other beforehand and figured out if this was going to work in the first place or not.
But we can't, because if you do get to know each other beforehand and spend some time in the dating phase, then that is just the worst sin you can commit ever.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And it's like, I feel like it's very mindset related, right? I think there's this big taboo about like being part of a family where your kid or your sister or somebody is out there in a relationship with no intentions of immediately getting married. Because it's like, what are they doing then? Like, why do they feel like they shouldn't get married and make it official? Why can't they like do that and be actually accepted in the community as being together? Because until that happens, they're not together. It's like, I feel like in other communities, sometimes non-Desi communities, I find that it's a lot easier when you're dating someone to bring your partner to things, to your family events, to your like parties, your gatherings where family is also present. But I feel like in a Desi community, at least from what I'm seeing from my like older family friends, from all my like other friends, I'm seeing that they bring their partners to things only when things are official. When they're like, there's a ring on the finger, then you can bring your partner to family events and family friend gatherings. So I feel like it's just like, I feel like no emphasis is put on that stage because it doesn't exist. In the minds of your Desi parents, dating does not exist.
They're just a friend.
That's it.
Like, and even just a friend,
they happen to be at a event with you, they will be introduced as, oh, that's our friend. That's his friend.
And it's so interesting because it's like, why do we just ignore this entire phase when fundamentally I believe it is the most important phase of a relationship? Because this is not the after you've legally signed papers and now there's literally no way out unless there's some sort of legal altercation. But like, this is when you really get to know the person and learn how they are as a person, whether this is even a good fit for you, how they understand you, how they treat you. Like, fundamentally, this is when you get to know them, how they treat the people around you. Like, it's like, why do we just pretend like it doesn't exist? Because it's fundamentally the most important part of a relationship. It is the building block of a relationship. And, you know, it's funny because we're talking about like, you know, having your partners come to like events and stuff and like be introduced as their partner only until like after it's official. But I found that like a lot of my other friends who've dated people that haven't been a part of the community, there's been like I guess like issues where one side's like, hey, why are you not introducing me to your parents? Like, do you not think this is serious enough?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they felt like shit, but it's like on the flip side, it's like, listen, I'd love to, but like I can't, or I will be put into a coffin or shipped back to the homeland. But like, yeah, that's a little bit of an exaggeration.
No, but yeah. I mean, for some families, it's like that too, like where there's very strict rules to be followed and consequences are serious.
Yeah,
when you don't follow them.
It's so frustrating because I can also understand the flip side of it, like feeling like, you know, your partner's not taking you seriously enough to introduce you to the family, or like, you know, having you get to know like that side of it. It's like you're almost living a double life and like keeping them away from an entire, like a really important aspect of your life, because of course you can't just be like, yeah, you're gonna be my partner and one day I do plan to marry you, but you can't meet my parents yet. Like,
no, it's giving mixed signals
exactly
to someone that
it's a red flag.
Fully understand the community. It's fully giving mixed signals.
It, like, I can't even blame them for being like, oh my god, that's such a red flag, but it's like, how do I explain to you that this is just not how it works here? Like, I wish it was better. It needs to be better. We need to be better about this topic. But I'm sorry to all of the kids out there that are dating someone who's Desi and being like, why is this person not bringing me around their family, introducing me? It's just, we can't. Not now.
No, but that's true. And I feel like on the plus side, on the positives, I think just to like end this off with some positive sides, I think things are changing. I think parents are getting a lot more like modern and in the know and understanding how like difficult it is for someone to balance cultural boundaries and like our upbringing that focused on maybe pushing dating aside and only focusing on marriage as this pivotal milestone. They're understanding that that's not realistic. At least that's what I'm seeing. And I feel like they're becoming more open to the idea of like fully embracing that this is a part of life. It happens. It has to happen if you want to see marriage happen. And I think the one positive thing to note for sure is that as much as there is that like, oh, like we can't bring you around until it's official, once it's official, I think there's so much emphasis on family. It's like once you're married, like that is your family. Like there are these very strong familial values in the Desi community that you can't deny, which is awesome. Right?
There's pros and cons, and they're very opposite sides of the spectrum. But this is an interesting topic situation, but just I guess a message to all the Desi kids out there that it gets better.
It does.
It will get better. Things are changing. We're becoming a lot more accepting of it. And you know, the other thing also is like as a collective, as people in our age group, at least we as a generation don't hold the same expectations that you either need to get 100%. Married to the first person you date
and have kids at a certain timeline. Science is changing, we are changing, and I feel like our upbringing is changing, and I have so much faith in the future of the Desi community that there is going to be much less pressure, there is going to be a lot more understanding, and there's going to be a lot more emphasis on doing things to do your partnership justice rather than doing things on a clock.
And especially a huge emphasis on finding someone that meets your criteria, not the society's criteria, not what everybody puts on a piece of paper. It's what you want, what you see yourself with, what makes you happy, and who makes you happy.
Correct. Okay. That was our episode on dating as a Desi person. Hope you enjoyed that and stay tuned for more.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.